Hey everybody, it's Lucas from the Pine Pals podcast coming at you with the third installment of The Draft of Us. Um, this episode was a tearjerker. This hit me right in the heart, and it was it was probably I don't want to say my favorite episode because I still think the first one so far has been my favorite, but this has definitely been maybe the best episode that they did. In this episode, we learn more about Bill and Frank. And for those of you who have played the Last of Us game, like I have, the show kind of went more into depth into these characters, Bill and Frank, than you definitely see in the video game. In the video game, when you come across uh, Bill after Tess dies, you go searching for this truck battery, or I think you're searching for the truck battery in this like local school. Then you come across this horde and blah blah blah. One thing leads to another. But when you meet Frank in the video game, he is already dead. He got bit and decided to take his own life so Bill wouldn't have to find him as a clicker. But um, in this TV show, you they they go completely different from the video game. The whole episode was mainly based around Bill and Frank and the life that they had during the apocalypse. And essentially, it seemed like a pretty normal life considering e- everything that's going on in this world. You Bill uh in the very beginning of the episode, you see Joel and Ellie, and they're just walking along on their way to Bill and Frank's house, and they come across this airplane crash, and Ellie's like, "Oh man, I'm so jealous that you got to fly. You were up in the air. That's crazy." Um, and then they come across this kind of like remnants of a mass grave, essentially. When the military came in and just trucked up a bunch of people and brought them into this field and just mowed them down because even though they weren't infected, they didn't want their reasoning behind it was that they didn't want the possibility of more infected people, and they took the people that they wanted to the quarantine zone, and all the people that were left behind, that's it, lights out. When that's going on with the rounding up of the local town, you see Bill in his essentially doomsday bunker full of guns, ammunition, food, water, chemicals, and he's watching everything happen through his security cameras in his little preppers survivalist little dungeon thing that he has, I guess, or hatch, I guess, underneath his house. And then when he finally comes up, he sees that the government has taken everybody, and the town is completely his. And so he goes to work building his own little quarantine zone for himself. He put fences up, he had running water, he had fresh food, um, he had meat, fresh meat, and he had like a fully stocked hardware store, which again, when he got to it, it was already a couple weeks into the apocalypse and it was completely fully stocked, which I don't understand how that happens, but whatever. Um, but he basically made himself this own little village, and he was living there for a while by himself. He had booby traps to deal with the stray clickers, and you really only see him deal with one clicker. So he was far enough away from the city that he didn't really have to deal with clickers. His main problem was other people. And we first see that when Frank stumbles in and falls into one of these pits that Bill dug for protection, and it's kind of just like a barrier defense. And you find out that like where Frank came from Baltimore, and the QZ there is completely gone, and they have a dinner together. Frank showers. It's probably the first hot shower he had the whole time since the apocalypse end of the world happened. And at dinner, they played the piano together, sang together, and they end up falling in love. And that was the main reason why this episode was such a tearjerker, because they fall in love in the apocalypse. The world's over, and they're still having, what seems just like an average day. You see them have a couple of fights, but it's not normal fights like, oh man, oh, bills, I forgot to pay this bill, oh, blah blah blah. Uh, it's like, well, I just want some gas and paint to fix up a couple of shops in town just to make it look more homey. Uh, and stuff like that. Honestly, it was really fun to watch this episode. It was also really sad when the inevitable happens, and um, I'm not trying not to spoil the whole episode. It was very well done. Nick Offerman was fantastic as Bill. It was nice to see their full relationship, and they meet Tess and Joel, and Bill is against them having friends, but Frank wants them to have friends to make it seem more like, yeah, the end of the world happened, but we're still human. And they help each other out, they trade, and Joel tells Bill that, yeah, you should be fine from clickers. Your booby traps and the fence will keep them out. But what you have to worry about is raiders. And eventually, a raid does happen, and Bill and Frank fight it off. Bill gets shot, but he survives that. And then when it comes to, you see them. It's a little like time skips and jumps ahead, and you really see them in their their golden years. They grew old together. They've spent a good chunk of their life together in the apocalypse, and it's not stated, but uh, Frank gets sick, and you see him in pain in a wheelchair, and they're just trying to get by, and I'm not going to ruin it for those who haven't seen it because I know it just ended, but they, you know, the inevitable happens. But and that's when Joel and Ellie come to them. They by the time they're there, it's already too late, and uh, Bill leaves them a note saying, like, you can keep all these supplies, use them, Joel, to keep Tess safe. And in the previous episode, episode 2, Tess died. So and then at the end of the episode, with all these supplies, they finally have a truck and they're headed out west. Joel has really accepted now that he has to protect Ellie, and this is the new mission. This is getting Ellie to the Fireflies and to that laboratory is the new mission, and this is what he has to do. So they got their truck, they got supplies, guns, ammo, food. They were able to take a shower, and they're heading out west to find Tommy, to find Joel's brother, and some Fireflies, hopefully. So without going into too much more, and I don't want to spoil this whole episode because it was really well done. It was really beautiful, and it was awesome to see these two characters that, I mean, you only really hear of Frank in the first video game, and Bill is only in the video game for like one fetch quest essentially, and he's just like this complete nut. And in the show, he's like a doomsday prepper and stuff like that. He's a little out there, but he was like completely insane in the video game. So this was a nice to see in depth of these characters. So excuse me. The beer I chose today, because of their love of music, I figured that I should go with something. Uh, Bill and Frank's love of music. I figured I should go into something that has to do musical related. uh, or music related. Sorry. So I went with Layers of Notes from Green Cheek. It is a double dry hopped hazy triple IPA. It says drink while smiling. And I'll say this. Um, this episode, I was not smiling at the end of it. I was quite sad. I was quite sad. It was definitely a real tearjerker. It was a beautiful love story, and this 50-minute episode of The Last of Us is still a better love story than all of the Twilight movies. So here we go. This is definitely one of my favorite breweries from out west. It's a beer that I don't get too much, but it is definitely one of my favorites from out west. And it's also kind of fitting because Joel and Ellie are now headed out west. So, oh, and I decided to use this glass because the first time we see Bill, he comes out of the house with a shotgun and he's wearing a gas mask, and then he sets to work. So I figured this would be a fun time to use this glass. It smells absolutely delicious. Whew. That is very like peachy, a little bit of pininess, delicious hop bite to it. Just crisp enough where it's not a palate wrecker, but it definitely lets you know what you're drinking. This is absolutely delicious. It's nice and bright, wonderful peach flavor. Let's see. Let's see if it says anything on the can what I should be expecting. Oh, it's 10.5% ABV. Fun thing to have right before bed. Doesn't say anything, but it is absolutely delicious. Highly recommend this one. On the pro scale, I'm going to give this a T. Thank you so much, everybody, and I'll see you next week.